Pokemon Emerald's gym leaders are known as a step up in difficulty, at least compared to Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. If you're casually blasting through the game, maybe you got stuck on Tate Liza, maybe Mewtwo, was a bit of a roadblock for a while, but you eventually got through because you had options. For this run, I don't know, like visiting an old shop in some forgotten town, our options are limited and poor. At the very least, however, they exist. For this run, we're seeing if we can beat the game, by which I mean the Elite Four, in Pokemon Emerald with a team consisting of each gym leader's weakest Pokemon. The plan is that every time we beat a gym leader, we recruit their first or weakest Pokemon into our team. So let's say we face Brawly. We'd be doing so with just a Geodude that has the same moveset that Roxanne used against us. After we defeat Brawly, we then recruit his Machop into our team with its current moveset. Further restrictions are that we can't evolve the Pokemon we recruit, and we can only use the moves that they use when battling us. And of course, we can't use any items in battle. We also stop recruiting Pokemon after defeating Juan. It's not like we can bring on defeated Elite Four Pokemon or anything like that. With that out of the way, let's do it. In starting the game, we actually need a Pokemon to tackle Roxanne with. In the interest of just getting this part over with, I chose Mudkip. It's bulky enough and gets Water Gun early on. Our mission here is to just get past Roxanne as swiftly as possible so we can recruit her glorious Geodude. With May having Trico and its evolutions, it should also provide a bit of a challenge too. We deal with all the early game shenanigans until we're ready to face Roxanne at level 14. There's no particular point in covering the battle because our only objective is to take the win so that we can recruit our first Pokemon. However, in the run up to this, and if my run in Pokemon Crystal taught me anything, is that we should leave a few trainers to battle outside of the gym because our new teammate will need some levels and may potentially need to be over-leveled. Unlike in Pokemon Crystal, we have less of an advantage going into the second gym. In fact, we actually have quite a severe disadvantage. It's Geodude. So let's talk about it. It's got to be one of the most well-known Pokemon outside of the heavy hitters from the anime and other promotional media. When taking a look at its stats, Geodude leaves a lot to be desired. In the early game, its high defense is absolutely appreciated because of the move coverage we'll be facing. Its attack ain't too shabby either. I sure hope Geodude has some great moves to back it up though. But before that, the most glaring issue we're going to have with Geodude is its abysmal speed. The majority of the Pokemon in the game will end up being faster than us. Couple that with a relatively low HP and special defense stat, much like Pidgey was in that Crystal run, Geodude's probably going to peak quite early. At least Geodude's moveset is better than Pidgey's was. Tackle is, well, tackle. Rock Throw is awful, 50 base power and 90% accuracy. Rock Tomb is technically a better move, but that thing feels like it misses most of the time. And Defense Curl, you think you'd get into a situation where you can set up and just sweep and withstand what a trainer throws at you, but honestly, Geodude isn't bulky enough to do that the further in the game we progress. To actually include Geodude in our team, we simply insert the Pokemon into the PC with a cheating device and prescribe it the same moves that it has. Its stats are simply random. Now, we are at a severe disadvantage for Brawly. We are obviously weak to fighting. Brawly has 3 fighting Pokemon, Machop, Meditite, and Makuhita. We have a choice as to where we can and should go next. We're not forced to face Brawly. In fact, we can delay battling him for quite some time, something that's not an option in 3DS remakes by the way. Before heading to Slateport, I decide to at least take on all the trainers I've missed and can technically fight at this point in the game. I then target those in his gym. These battles are by no means easy, but we can get past them until we can give Brawly a go. At level 18, I roll in with who else but Geodude. Machop will obviously outspeed us, and Karate Chop, though super effective, isn't as devastating as I thought it would be. Rock Tomb, however, is not great against Machop, but we'd like to lower its speed at least. Despite having an Aurum Berry to heal, tackle misses twice, 90% accurate. It takes me just 2 battles to know that this isn't feasible right now. We have to go to Slateport and we have to get some more levels. Now, there are a lot of trainers around, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of trainers in the game. We'll cover this later when we have to grind harder than your mother on a Saturday night in the club, but it's still time consuming. From level 18, we've now reached level 22 for Mewtwo, and she has both a Wingull and a Grovyle, both quicker than us, both with super effective moves. How do you think this is going to go? This is not great. Wingull's outspeeding, it uses Water Gun. If it ain't using Water Gun, it's using Supersonic, and we hurt ourselves in confusion. While one Rock Tomb can knock it out, as soon as Grovyle's out, it's using Absorb, and we're already on low HP, so it's an easy victory for May. There are a few more trainers available near the Trick House, so I go and battle them, as well as go all the way back and grab Quick Claw. The plan forming in my head for May is to get those Quick Claw activations and use Rock Tomb and hope we somehow just make it through. Despite not thinking I'm still quite at a high enough level to defeat Brawly, I do go back and give another go anyway. We have about 6 more levels on Geodude than the last time, so maybe our chances have increased. But because we're now at a higher level, some things happen. The good thing is that even though Rock Tomb isn't effective, it does about a third-ish to Machop and lowers its speed enough that we can start moving first from now on. Bad news is that because of our level, Machop is going to start using Bulk Up instead of outright attacking. The way things shake out now is that while we're able to output some damage and sustain a little more hurt, we're often putting Machop in a range of healing. On the one hand, that's good because it means Brawly uses his healing potions on something other than the Makahita. On the other hand, that's bad because it means that Machop can damage us for longer. Ideally, we want a different Pokemon to get healing focus. Despite this, on this occasion, we can make it to Makahita. However, we're in such a state, we're not long for this world. Okay, gotta go back to May then. The reason why I'm determined to beat May is because 1, we technically have a better chance against Watson than Brawly. 2 is that we get access to more trainers to battle. So I go back with the Quick Claw equipped. We're 3 levels higher than before. Thanks to the Quick Claw, we can on occasion knock out Wingull. But for Grovyle, even though we outspeed it, Rock Tomb leaves it on just 8 sliver of health. Absorb, however, doesn't KO, which is what I was surprised about. Despite the speed drop, it's not enough and Grovyle will knock us out next turn. But that was close. I reckon we've got a chance. And next time, we get it. We start out well this time. Quick Claw activates and our Rock Tomb hits and one-shot. Grovyle is out next. Ideally, we want to not only get the activation, but go first and make the range. Though we can take an absorb, obviously, we'd rather not. We choose Rock Tomb and we do go first. We then hit and make that range. May's last Pokemon is just the Slugma, and that thing should not only be slower than us, but shouldn't be able to output much damage to Geodude either. In the battle of the slowest, we somehow lose to Slugma, but Rock Tomb misses. Then Slugma uses Yawn. That could actually prove a problem. Next turn though, we're pretty blessed with a Rock Tomb hit and a critical which takes it out. So, as I was saying, we should definitely be heading for Watson next. Well, in thinking of his team for a moment, I was actually reminded by a Magnemite I fought along the way. And I remembered that he has a Magneton, and we've got nothing against that. It's Steel, but you know what would be effective? A fighting Pokemon. Seems like our next move is Sealed then. But wouldn't you just know it, a level 26 Geodude still ain't cutting it. We've been stuck with this Geodude with what seems like forever. I've been at this for a while now, and we can't even get past the second gym leader with a Pokemon that's like 10 levels above theirs. Okay, so I go and level up some more until we're at level 30. Okay gods, give us strength. We're going to start off with Rock Tomb. We flat out are quicker now, and Rock Tomb does well over half damage. Machop uses Karate Chop. Thankfully, no crit, and it only does 13 damage. Our next Rock Tomb should do it, but will we hit? Yes, we will. Meditite's out next, and we need to do some very specific things through trial and error. We want it to use Bulk Up, because by increasing its defense, we can continually put Meditite into healing range so that Brawly will waste his supply of Super Potion. Or we could just end up knocking it out with 2 tackles. Let's just roll with it and see what happens. Makahita is out next. Final Pokemon. We are on nearly full health. We get to go first and miss with Rock Tomb. Off to a great start. A bulk up from Makahita, not great, but at least the next time we use Rock Tomb it hits, and it's doing maybe just over a quarter. But we then see another bulk up, and I have a feeling this battle is going to drag out. Our moves are just going to be doing less and less over time. I suppose the only way it wouldn't is if we... Yeah, a crit will make things much easier. With Brawly finally defeated, we can recruit our second Pokemon, Chop. On the surface, it may look like we've gained a pretty valuable ally. I'm thinking down the road to Sydney Elite 4. Plus, there's a lot of Dark and Normal out there too, Steel as well. But all's not as great as it appears because Machop really doesn't excel much outside of its attack and maybe HP. Speed, defenses, these gaps are only going to become more pronounced as the game continues. Another issue with first stage evolution Pokemon is that when you're facing off with second or third evolutions, or ones with a higher base stat total, you're basically having to take whatever level they are and add 10 to it to come close to even footing. Move-wise, you may think that bulk up looks pretty useful, just set up and sweep, right? But we're often not outpacing the damage the further we're into the game, so we could maybe pop off one at the most. It's not all bad though. Seismic Toss only increases in usefulness as we get further in the game, particularly against Pokemon that resist fighting. Karate Chop has a good crit chance, and Low Kick only gets better because we're dealing with heavier and heavier Pokemon. But now we have another teammate, and one that actually covers our weaknesses. In the upcoming battle with Watson, we might have a fighting chance. However, due to the joys of self-imposed rules, Machop joins us at level 16. Thankfully, I decided to be smart and save some trainers for it to battle, particularly along that cycling path because for some reason they like using Magnemite. Alongside this, there are still a bunch of trainers to the east and west of Moville, who will be coming in handy for training purposes much later on. So with a level 31 Geodude and a level 23 Machop, I face off with Watson. Going in blind, we don't actually perform too badly. Voltorb can't really affect us, so while it does outspeed and use rollout, it barely does anything. In response, we can hit with Tackle that does just over half, and because Voltorb's now stuck in rollout, we're happy to just keep using Tackle. Only it doesn't quite make the range. Either way, we eventually make it past Watson's first Pokemon after losing just 5 hit points. Next up is the Electrike. Again, much like Voltorb, it's got nothing, but once again, will outspeed us and use Howl. What I am surprised by is, well, first Rock Tomb actually hits, but it even manages to one-shot Electrike. We are pretty over-leveled though, but the real test is up next in Magneton. Though Rock Tomb isn't effective against Magneton, we need to lower its speed because when Machop comes out, we need it to be able to get in a hit first. However, in true Geodude fashion, while it started off well, it goes downhill pretty quickly. Unlike Voltorb and Electrike, Magneton can actually damage us more significantly. Sonic Boom is able to chip away at Geodude's HP while we continually miss with every single attack we make until we are forced to switch in. At level 23, and with Magneton having just endured one speed drop, Machop ain't faster. Luckily, Magneton's supersonic misses and we then respond with Karate Chop. Can't recall if Low Kick may technically do more damage because of the weight, but the very next turn, Watson uses his Super Potion of Magneton, restoring all of its health. Machop then comes in clutch with a quick Karate Chop, that gets us the KO. Machop levels up to 24, and Watson's on his final Pokemon, Manectric. In no world are we quicker than this Pokemon. However, Manectric uses Howl instead of attacking. Then our Karate Chop hits and crits. Next turn, we see another Howl while we just stick to Karate Chop. Manectric's Berry kicks in, and with all these howls, I'm wondering what Manectric's cooking up. Turns out it's a Shockwave that drops us to 32 HP, and yeah, we just got paralyzed too. Even though Manectric's in red bar, outside of a miracle, we have lost this. Watson uses another Super Potion next turn for going at 2 of those things. This time, our Karate Chop doesn't crit though. Unfortunately, we won't get to pop off another attack because Manectric outspeeds and we are defeated. What was the point of all those howls? Anyway, it wasn't an awful display. With some tweaking, we can definitely defeat Watson. A successful battle starts with Geodude in the lead. We can't be taking any chances with Rock Tomb, so just stick with Tackle because it'll do over half. Voltorb 4D chesses a self-destruct, which is fine by us because it barely causes any damage. With it knocked out, we know Electrike's up next. Just as before, one Rock Tomb, if it hits, will be enough to OHKO the Electrike. But with it down and Watson fielding the Magneton, now's the time we need a bit of luck on our side. However, it doesn't start great. Magneton is faster and uses Supersonic. Geodude's now confused, but still manages to fire off a Rock Tomb. We get that precious speed drop. In return, we're hit with Sonic Boom. Fine, we can tag a few of those. We just need to pop up one more Rock Tomb. Once we do, now's the time to switch in to Machop. But we can't do anything about tanking a hit the moment we're sent out. We've manipulated events in such a way that Magneton will use Sonic Boom, which we can obviously survive. Now, it's up to a bit of luck. I don't think Karate Chop will defeat Magneton without crit though. Because we're now faster, we can move first. Karate Chop thankfully crits, defeating Magneton. Only Manectric remaining. I'm currently not using set mode for battles, but I would end up changing that shortly because it just makes the game more challenging. But for now, we do have a slight advantage without being down a move from Manectric. Regardless of the change mode, there's honestly not very much you can do against Geodude. Rock Tomb ends up doing a ton of damage, more than I thought it would. If we pop up another, we honestly should be good. But there's the Citrus Berry. I wasn't sure if Rock Tomb would do too much damage and cause Watson to use the Super Potion. However, we seem to just be in a safe range. This allows Geodude to use another Rock Tomb, which will definitely finish off Manectric and give us the victory. Voltorb turned out to be a bit of a sleeper hit throughout the run. On the surface, the only thing it really has going for it is its speed. We can't rely on its attack, so we'll have to rely on its special attack instead. That speed will become super important when trying to pop off its electric moves to draw first blood. If we look at Voltorb's current moveset, it's got Rollout, Spark, Shockwave, and Self-Destruct. Rollout, for the most part, will be pretty useless, not just because of Voltorb's abysmal physical attack, but it locks us into the move. In this run, our greatest strength will be swapping between Pokemon to get as much coverage as possible. Spark and Shockwave, there's not a world of difference between the moves. Spark does 5 more damage at 65 than Shockwave, but the latter will always hit. Spark does have a 30% chance to paralyze though, which may be helpful. Self-Destruct is an emergency move, and there are a couple of instances in the run where it comes out extremely clutch. Pretty great when you're near KO'd and just need to finish off a Pokemon. There's not a ton to mention about the preceding section. We had to head to Mount Pyre to deal with Team Magma Aqua Quest, and Maxi isn't so big a hurdle that a few retries can't defeat them. Flannery, however, I'm not sure how this is going to go. We don't really have too much of an advantage against any of the Pokemon. They don't have a clear advantage against us either, but their Overheat can probably do a fair job of siphoning through our defensively weak Pokemon. Because of this, I roll into the battle with Machop first off. The plan is to use Bulk Up a few times to raise our attack and hopefully sweep through a team. At first, this doesn't seem like a terrible approach. In the first battle, we're kind of getting fortunate because Numel is sticking to using Takedown or Magnitude, and they're causing less and less damage with each turn. After setting up 3 bulk ups, Machop's Karate Chop will then one-shot the Numel. With it down, Flannery will pivot to a Slugma. Again, we're 7 levels above this thing, and it is so slow that we should outspeed it without issue. Another Karate Chop will take it out, but we were never worried about Flannery's first 2 Pokemon. It's all about the Camerupt and the Torkoal. With Camerupt up next, I'm wondering how much Karate Chop will do against it. Turns out, quite a bit of damage, but not quite enough to knock it out without a crit. Camerupt then uses Overheat, and of course that is going to KO us. But we've not done too badly. We can only really send out Geodude next because what was Voltorb going to do anyway? In hindsight, Explode actually would have been a good strategy here. Either way, Geodude's out, and I guess the Pokemon wouldn't have mattered anyway because Flannery uses a Hyper Potion to heal Camerupt completely. Next turn, we'll obviously move first, so we use Rock Tomb, which ends up critting. I deliberated on going for Tackle, but expecting another heal from Flannery, we use Rock Tomb again, and it doesn't do quite over half, not good. Next turn, we end up missing our next Rock Tomb. Camerupt then goes for Sunny Day, but that could end up being a problem. Not so much for Camerupt, but for the Torkoal. We then, of course, miss our next Rock Tomb because why not? Camerupt then uses Attract, forgot I even had that. We're still in love when we go for our next move, but it appears that Geodude's Lust has only made it more powerful. Rock Tomb crits and KOs the Camerupt. Alright, Torkoal's up next. I can see an Overheat in our future. When it hits the field, I was skeptical about us outspeeding it, but turns out that we do. Not only does Rock Tomb hit and it's super effective, but Torkoal's Overheat misses. But the very next turn, our Rock Tomb misses, and of course, we see that Overheat again, which crits. I'm starting to think that Rock Tomb missed more times this run than it hit. Either way, the battle's a wash because Voltorb sure can't mount any kind of attack against Torkoal, so a loss is guaranteed. Winning against Flannery didn't take too long. It just required getting the right move cadence and a bit of luck. The plan now was to abandon trying to set up on Numel and just keep using Karate Chop. It'll do a fine job knocking it out. The main issue was that if we took an Overheat from Numel, it meant a reset. For the Slugma, we'll just keep going with the same plan. Karate Chop won't knock Slugma out, but it'll take it into Red Bar, which is what we want. This will force Flannery to use a Hyper Potion on it. After Slugma's defeated, we'll be pivoting to Geodude when Flannery feels the Camerupt. Geodude is able to tank an Overheat from Camerupt, which is ideally what we want. We have the Auron Berry equipped to up our survivability in this battle as well. Now, we're going to stick to using Rock Tomb because it's our best move. The move will do just enough damage that it will coax Camerupt into Red Bar and force Flannery to use another Hyper Potion, hopefully a last one. All we do now is just keep using Rock Tomb. Obviously, as per tradition, it's going to keep missing the Camerupt, but it will eventually hit enough times to defeat it. But up next is Torkoal. Rock Tomb, while effective, won't do anything else on top of the damage because of Torkoal's ability. It doesn't really matter though. As long as it hits, that's all we need from Geodude for the remainder of the battle. Now we switch into Voltorb. Why? Voltorb's obviously faster, and there's the self-destruct we were talking about. While it's not going to do a great deal of damage against Torkoal, what it has done is put Torkoal into a favourable range. With no more Hyper Potions, when we bring out Machop next, we can use Seismic Toss, so we're avoiding any unfavourable ranges. This will knock Torkoal out, and we've won. Numel. If there is any kind of running theme in the Pokemon we've recruited so far, it's that they are all hella slow. Numel is obviously no exception. With base 35 speed, most Pokemon will be faster than it. That's always bad news. It really does not excel anywhere aside from, if we're being generous, its special attack. It's still quite defensively weak and doesn't have much in the attack department either. Will Numel's moves make up for it? Well, kinda. Overheat is obviously a decent move outside of its accuracy. We can get around the special attack drop by simply switching out. In most cases, we'll be fielding Numel just to use that attack. Magnitude can be a bit of a dice roll, but at least we now have a ground move that we can use. Takedown is pretty meh, but at least it's an attacking move. Sunny Day might have its uses. I'm mainly thinking it could possibly come in handy with the fight against Wallace. Our next port of call is Daddy's Gym. We obviously have the fighting advantage against his normal Pokemon. However, Machop isn't exactly a powerhouse, and because this gym comes relatively quickly after Flannery, there aren't many trainers to level up against. Not only that, while we do have an advantage against Norman's Pokemon, they're not exactly slouches, they hit hard, but that's why we've got Geodude in the party. I go into the battle blind. It's our level 33 Machop against the level 27 Spinda. I go bulk up with Machop. Of course, Spinda will outspeed and use Teeterdam, but we've got the Persian Berry equipped just for that. I would have liked to have set up another bulk up, but I don't want to take my chances. Next turn, Spinda uses Psybeam and it's super effective against Machop, doing about a third. We retaliate with Karate Chop and have no problem knocking it out. Numel next send out Vigoroth. I have no illusions that it's going first, so just hope that I can maybe reduce the damage going forward with another bulk up. Perseid doesn't do a ton, which is good. I then choose to go for another bulk up because I know we'll need as high attack as possible for slacking. Left on just 17 HP, we manage to unleash that final Karate Chop and knock Vigoroth out. However, we end up seeing Lanoon next. That could be a problem if it attacks, but Lanoon instead uses Belly Drum after we've lined up that Karate Chop. This part is already decided at least. We easily knock the Lanoon out. Now there's just slacking remaining, and for a first battle we're doing okay. But can Machop carry us all the way? Nope, it will not. And it's not because it's knocked out. I decide to change into Geodude because I reckon it'll tank Slacking's hits pretty well. Not only that, I want to start popping off those Rock Tombs to lower Slacking's awesome speed. The plan doesn't go quite as I envisioned though. Rock Tomb will obviously miss and Slacking also has Yawn. In the end, while we do get off 2 Rock Tombs, Slacking has Feint Attack which will cause neutral damage. Not only that, Norman has yet to use his Hyper Potion, so the battle's taken a bit of a turn. Geodude's out of the picture. I then switch into Machop. I deliberate here for a moment because I figure a Karate Chop won't knock it out, plus we have a turn of Slacking loafing around. Not only that, we should outspeed it now. Once I've set up another bulk up and Slacking's pretty heavy, we have Low Kick, and that will be a one-shot. Norman's defeated. First try victory, not bad at all. Spinda's technically the best Pokemon we currently have access to. Its stats are middling in every sense of the word. 60 across the board, and as a normal Pokemon that kind of makes sense. It is average, it is mid, and its moveset kind of reflects that. Teeterdance paired with its own tempo ability, which means it can't get confused, may look like a pretty good tactic going forward. But do we really want a bunch of battles where we're relying on the opponent to whack itself to death? Perseid's a decent attack with Stab, but Spinda doesn't have the power to exploit it. There's also a potential to combine it with something like Poison if we absolutely had to. Psybeam is currently our only psychic move, but it's not particularly powerful either. Encore, maybe it's got situational use. Spinda, well, it's a Spinda. With Surf, we've now got access to pretty much everywhere. There are a ton of trainers available too. While I don't think I need to worry about the majority of them for now, I know I will have to go on a world tour in anticipation for Tate and Liza. For Winona, on paper at least, we've got some pretty clear advantages with Pokemon like Geodude, Voltorb, and even Numel. Through the power of battling trainers, but not all the trainers along the way, our team are now all in their early 30s. For a battle against the Flying Gym, it makes the most sense to roll in with Voltorb and just see how we get on. Against Swablu, there's little doubt we'll outspeed it, but will we knock it out with Shockwave? Nope, but it does over half, so it's not all bad news, because Swablu mirror moves Shockwave. If it had used Perish Song, unlike in a solo run, we would have been forced to switch out. After another Shockwave, I'm used to a different order of Pokemon due to mostly doing solo runs, so I'm a little surprised when Altaria's out next. Of course, it has Earthquake, and we have no Pokemon that are a good counter to it. I debate who to switch into for a moment before ultimately going with Spinda because at least it will be neutral damage. However, Altaria goes for Dragon Dance first turn. Then I have an idea. Firstly, we need to confuse Altaria. We then hope for that second Dragon Dance, which we get. This is where we use Encore. When it hits and Altaria is locked into Dragon Dance for a few turns, what we should have done is probably switched into Voltorb. However, the benefit of all those Dragon Dances is that when Spinda is KO'd and we switch into Geodude, Altaria hits itself in confusion. Then we use Rock Tomb and end up KOing it. That was very lucky though. Winona's gonna switch to Tropius next. It's probably gonna line up a Solar Beam, so we're better off switching into Numel, who resist. As predicted, it's taken in Sunlight. When we go for Overheat, there's no chance we're faster than it, so get hit with that Solar Beam. While doing just over half, it's not a KO, so Numel retaliates with Overheat, and that will be a one-shot. Now that those Pokemon are down, we should have an easier time with Winona's next Pokemon, Pelipper. For it, we can switch into Voltorb. Because Numel was obviously weak to water, Pelipper went for Water Gun first, but Voltorb resisted it well enough. Next turn, we're definitely going to outspeed with Shockwave. The little Pokeball is even surprisingly powerful enough to one-shot Pelipper too. Winona's final Pokemon is the Skarmory. Kind of forgot she had it for a moment there. We don't need to switch out, but have both Numel and Geodude if the worst should happen. Voltorb gets the drop on Skarmory with Shockwave and we resist its Steel Wing. Because our attack's taken Skarmory over halfway, if we get a good Rage, then this badge is all wrapped up. Next turn, there's another Shockwave, Skarmory's down, and we've beaten Winona on the first try. Things are finally looking up, right? No! But before we get into Tate and Liza, we've made a new friend. Swablu, in very loose terms, could potentially be a special defense tank of the team. It's got a 75 in special defense, which ain't saying much, but that's its best stat. Its attack and special attack are pretty abysmal, just like its health, but it's probably the second fastest member on our team. Likewise, Swablu's moveset leaves a lot to be desired. Safeguard, not really going to be that useful. Peri's Song, if it's the final Pokemon we're up against, then sure, but if we're down to a Gym Leader or Elite Four member's last Pokemon, I'm not so hopeful we'll be surviving 3 rounds of whatever they can throw at us. Mirror Move, unless it's a status move, I don't see it getting much use. Aerial Ace technically is our best move, and with 40 attack, we're gonna have to be in situations where we are at a much higher level than what we're facing to actually see any returns. And boy, for Tate and Liza, are we gonna need some levels. The difficulty spike against their team is insane. Casually, if you head into this battle with Crunch or a couple of Pokemon that know Surf, you're laughing. There's no laughing for us though, only sads. I know my first time into this battle we're not going to win. We're going to come nowhere close to victory, but we need to understand just how far victory is away from us. It's in battles such as this where you really understand the gulf in base stats in pre-evolved Pokemon. If we're lucky, we only need to gain 10 plus levels. Currently, all our Pokemon are in the late 30s or thereabout. First off, Xatu is fast. It's always going to be faster than our team, except for Voltorb maybe. If a Pokemon like Machop's on the field, 9 times out of 10, Xatu will target Psychic and it is a one-shot. We have no moves that are effective against Tate and Liza's Pokemon with the exception of Voltorb's moveset against Xatu. Given Voltorb's stats, Shockwave or Spark won't one-shot a Pokemon like that unless it is at a much higher level. At best, we're inflicting neutral damage to the rest of the team. Speaking of Tate and Liza's team, there lies another problem. All our Pokemon have super effective moves in Psychic against Machop. Claydol has Earthquake. Geodude, Voltorb and Numel are going down to that move, no question. Lunatone and Solrock, couldn't tell you, didn't manage to get to them with this team at this level. All our Pokemon were consistently being one-shot. It was a Poke massacre. So what can we do? One plan of action was to use Perish Song with Swablu. As you might expect, when you use Perish Song, a trainer will wait until the turn before it takes effect until they switch out their Pokemon to negate the effects. If we somehow manage to deal with 2 of Tate and Liza's Pokemon, it may well be a viable path to victory. Currently, it's not an option. Another strategy I toyed with was using Teeter Dance with Spinda. To actually proc this, Spinda needs the Quick Claw. Without it, it's too slow. But even if we do confuse Xatu and Claydol, and one of our Pokemon has a Persian Berry to negate the confusion on our side, it's still not enough, because it's only a 50% chance that they don't attack. More often than not, Claydol will still be popping off one of those Earthquakes and obliterating our team. The simple fact is that, right now, we're too weak to really formulate any path forward. We've got no choice but to just grab some levels. Now, to do this, you might be saying, you'd just go around the water and battle the trainers, and you wouldn't be wrong. But those swimmers, what kind of Pokemon do you think they have on their team? If you said the majority would be water types, you'd be correct, and a number of team members don't do so well against water Pokemon. So in training, we're having to equip the EXP Share and main Voltorb to hoover up what XP we can. So after that first bout of training a la Rocky montage, we give Tate and Liza another shot. Our levels haven't increased too much. Voltorb's level 44 and we've raised Spinda to 41 in an attempt to see how that Teeter Dance strat works, along with giving it more survivability. However, that strat ain't working, and it's because it relies on proccing a Quick Claw, which ends up being extremely rare, so you're constantly resetting for the luck. Not only that, as we said before, it's only a 50% chance the opposing Pokemon hits itself. It's just not viable enough. The only option is to grind some more, a lot more. I've decided to take our team to level 45 and see how we get on. Briefly, there are two recommended ways to level up at this point. One method is to follow the roving reporters around. The more you fight them, the better their Pokemon become. Eventually, they have a Loudred and a Magneton that you can face in a double battle. You get about 2k experience every time you battle them. I've seen people online swear by this method. Could not disagree more. It may not come as a surprise, but the optimal way is to train us to the West Moville. Balancing time invested with XP earned, you're getting way more bang for your buck. It still takes an age, but at least it's slightly less of an age than stalking a reporter. So we return at level 45. For a good while, I was sticking to the let's confuse them and then use Seismic Toss, because at least we could put a dent in their team. Very rarely it works. Claydol is the deadliest Pokemon on the field, and we really have no choice but to defeat it first. I tried some other strats too, like trying to build a rollout on Xatu in the hopes a 3 or 4 turn would do some damage to Claydol, but it ends up being pretty pathetic. Finally though, there was one game plan that started yielding a bit of success. At level 45, Earthquake now won't always one-shot Numel, which is nice. In terms of raw attacking power, our best move is Overheat, 150 base power. We can further charge this up with Sunny Day, which Numel has. A sun-powered Overheat has a pretty good chance at knocking Claydol out, but we can't survive 2 hits from Earthquake. We could if Claydol didn't hit us on 1 turn, and that would only happen if it was confused. Typically, after Claydol's down, Lunatone or Solrock will come out next. However, it's best that we focus on Xatu, because if it's putting up Calm Minds, that's not good. If we get lucky with Confusion, roll out Visade, Shockwave, stuff like that, we're actually able to defeat it. Then you're just left with Lunatone and Solrock. Few problems here. The first is that they both have berries which will heal them. Second is that Tate and Liza have potion. Because our damage output is so low, we're always putting them in healing range, so they obviously get healed back to full health and all our work's pointless. Honestly, we kind of have a plan against Xatu and Claydol, but the other two? Hit and hope, I guess. It's got to pay off eventually, right? Okay, so we start off with the power duo of Spinda and Numel. From our side, we're going for Teeter Dance with Spinda and Sunny Day from Numel. Xatu's going to go first and use Calm Mind, which is probably the best we could hope for outside of a Sunny Day. Numel's Person Berry cures its confusion, and Claydol then hits itself in confusion. Even better if it happens next turn, but Numel really can't get hit. Next turn, we are lining up Visade for Claydol and Overheat with Numel too. This time, it's Xatu who hits itself in confusion. Then, Claydol hits itself in confusion too. Perfect. Numel uses Overheat, boom. Claydol is knocked out. Perfect start to the battle. The twins send out Lunatone next. We want to take out Xatu next. We use Visade with Spinda on Xatu and then switch Voltorb in. When it's out, Xatu then hits itself in confusion again. Blessed. Lunatone uses Calm Mind. Could be a problem, but we'll see. Has Xatu been put into healing range though? I decided to just attack it anyway and hope. Turns out we have just kept it out of healing range, and now that Voltorb is quicker, it'll be able to use Shockwave and knock Xatu out. They field the Solrock next, and it ends up on the receiving end of Spinda's Visade. In hindsight, I kinda wish I swapped into Swablu and used Peri's Song, but here we are. Instead, after Lunatone uses yet another Calm Mind, I deliberate for a while on who I should bring in next. Do we want Machop to use Seismic Toss? I specifically kept it paralyzed because of its guts ability in the hopes maybe we could pull off a clutch crit. In the end, I send out Numel in the hopes we can get off another Overheat. Lunatone and Solrock then both end up hitting themselves in confusion. The plan next round was to have Numel use Overheat on Lunatone because after the sunlight faded, Solrock would go for Sunny Day. In the end though, that doesn't quite work out and Numel's O-code. My brain decided to collapse in on itself because I'd not reached this section in this good of a position before. In choosing Voltorb, I was thinking maybe Rollout could end up stacking up the damage and maybe give us the win. The reality was that it barely does anything, and the only thing we succeed in doing is getting Spinda KO'd. I then revert to that old strat of trying to use Seismic Toss with Machop, even though the thing's paralyzed. I bring it out, while Lunatone ended up getting healed with its berry too. Voltorb is locked into Rollout, even though on the next turn, we go first, it does decent damage, but it doesn't knock it out. However, Machop isn't paralyzed and uses Seismic Toss to knock Lunatone out. Got an extra scoop of luck there. Solrock soon ends up putting Machop out of its misery with Psychic. However, maybe Rollout can carry us through this. I bring in Geodude because I want Solrock to target it. Next turn, we get our wish and Geodude is knocked out with Solar Beam. But our rollout has put Solrock into healing range. When we drag Swablu out, Solrock ends up being taken to just over half HP. Next turn, we'll be quicker, but will we hit? Will we do enough damage? I line up an Aerial Ace with Swablu because we need all the help we can get. Don't know if it's quicker than Solrock though. Next turn's up, Voltorb uses Rollout, it finishes Solrock off, and it is finally done. Tate and Liza are defeated. Hey, you may view getting Claydol as some kind of turning point in the run, the part where we actually have a good Pokemon and can kick it up a gear. First of all, why Claydol? I guess because it's maybe Tate's Pokemon and that means it's technically first. Also, using Claydol actually makes things harder in the long run, and it'll become clear why that is later on. Let's look at Claydol's stats. Good base stat total of 500, the most of any Pokemon we have or will get. Problem is, it's bulk, which is great, it's probably going to work against us. Why? Honestly, we need to be getting through Pokemon as quickly as possible, and Claydol won't really help with that. All things considered, its comparatively low attack and special attack means that it can't fully exploit its best moves. Not only that, Claydol's typing means it's actually weak to quite a few types, and you can already guess how it'd fare against a trainer like Wallace. Move-wise, we are looking pretty good though. Earthquake and Psychic, can't argue there. Great moves, but the low attacking stats means that these moves will never be as good as their potential suggests. Ancient Power, nice for the extra coverage and potential stat boost. Finally, Light Screen, maybe it could be useful, but our other Pokemon tend to be so defensively weak, it doesn't help as much as you might think. With all that said, we are gonna have a much easier time with Juan than we did with Tate Liza, so we can't be complaining too much. I roll into the battle without much of a plan except sending out Voltorb first. Against a Luvdisc, can't wait to bring that Titan on board. We end up using Shockwave. Should have used Spark because we don't quite knock it out. We then get hit with Water Pulse, and chances are that Juan is going to heal Luvdisc next turn. When that happens, I decide to switch to Spark, see if we can make the range. Turns out we don't, and whether it was a low range or not, I don't know. Either way, it doesn't matter too much because we'll be hitting first next turn. Part of me was expecting the Celio next, but because of Voltorb's typing, Juan sends out Whiscash. I debate on who to send out. I was thinking about Claydol because chances are Whiscash will use Earthquake, which I'm proven right about when I decide to send Spinda out. I'm anticipating Amnesia, so use Titadan. Despite being confused, Whiscash does manage to pop off an Amnesia, so I'll be sticking with Facade from Spinda. That is, after we've used Encore. See, it has some uses. Luckily, this play actually pays off because in between Whiscash frustratingly not hitting itself in confusion, at this level, Spinda's Facades are actually doing a fair bit of damage. In the end, Whiscash ends its Encore just as we land the final Facade to KO it. Juan's going to field the Celio next. I have to think who I should pivot to. I debated on Voltorb because it's effective, but Celio has moves like Body Slam, so I ultimately went with Machop. When it's sent out, it gets hit with Aurora Beam, but there's no attack drop. When we eventually get the move, we can go first because we actually outspeed a Pokemon for a change, and Low Kick is a great move against Celio, though it's not a one-shot. Machop's forced to tank another Aurora Beam from Celio, but Juan ain't using a Hyper Potion, so we can finish it off with just Variety Chop. Now's the time Juan's finally ready to send out his ace to Kingdra. I choose to keep Machop in because I know it's gonna get knocked out, so might as well do some damage before that. Again, Low Kick is the go-to move, though I don't know if Variety Chop could have done a bit more. The Water Pulse from Kingdra is of course gonna knock out Machop, but he's put in a shift. Once again, we are having a little think about who we should put up against Kingdra. Voltorb has the highest damage output, so probably it's up to that. Unfortunately, Kingdra has decent special defense and Shockwave does barely anything. Of course, we then get the rest from Kingdra and it has a Chesto Berry, so wakes right back up. We then get stuck in this annoying back and forth where Voltorb will keep using Shockwave after Kingdra's used Double Team for a few turns only for it to rest. The two get trapped in a dance of, I'll use 3 Shockwaves, then you'll rest. It gets to a point where I'm just like, let's change it up. I decide to bring in Swablu. Why? Because we've got Perish Song. Now, Juan still has the Crawdon, but I just want Kingdra to switch out and lose those evasion boosts and generally make some progress in the battle. After Swablu's served its purpose, we might as well send Voltorb back out to stall. We are then just waiting until Kingdra's Perish count gets to 1, forcing Juan to switch in the Crawdon. From here, I kept Swablu out for a few turns using Aerial Ace. Surprisingly, Crawdon was unable to hit with Crabhammer, and I'm thinking look like that ain't gonna last. so decide to pivot eventually to Spinda. Machop would have been nice, but it'll get its time against Crawdon later. Spinda is just bulky enough that it can tank a hit or two from Crawdon while it causes some pain with Facade. In the end, it hangs on just long enough to defeat Crawdon. Now, with Kingdra out, we actually don't mind if Spinda gets KO'd because we want our next Pokemon to move first. We get extremely lucky here because Kingdra does not go for Ice Beam, which our Swablu maybe could have tanked. Instead, it uses Double Team, so we use Perish Song. And honestly, that's pretty much the battle. At some point, I switch into Claydol, might as well take the advantage of its high defenses, and then we just stall for the remainder of the fight. Not an elegant battle, but it did result in a first try victory, which will always stay. But with Juan defeated, that is all 8 badges and our final team member. Now there's only the Elite 4 left and the champion remaining. So Luvdisc, the cherry on top of this Sunday. What can we say about Luvdisc? Well, it's quick, which make him in handy. The rest of its stats are pretty abysmal, low everything in comparison to what we'll be facing in our upcoming battles. Its move list has the potential to be somewhat annoying to its opponent's Pokemon. Attract and Sweet Kiss may end up being go-to moves against Pokemon we really can't output the damage to defeat or just need a bit of an advantage. Water Pulse is a water move at least, which gives us a bit of coverage. Flail, while conceptually good because of its high attack power, will never really be used by Luvdisc because even when we're in red bar, its attacking stat is so poor, it does basically nothing. All in all, a disappointing addition to the team, but hey, at least we'll be making use of it in the upcoming battles. So here's the thing about the Elite Four, and I want to get it out of the way now. You can make these battles more consistent, you just have to be a higher level to do so. And I'm talking much more of a higher level than their teams are. Ultimately, I could have gone and grinded for hours and hours. I chose not to do that. I'd rather save in between because we eventually got to a point where battles were possible if things went our way. It's just easier to show it. First off, our team consists of Machop, Swablu, Numel, Claydol, Luvdisc, and Voltorb. Okay, Sydney's up first. On paper, we have a good matchup, right? Machop's fight, no problem. It's at level 48, so it's higher than a few of Sydney's Pokemon. We could just set up with bulk up sweep, right? Not quite, because we're not really going to outspeed unless we have Quick Claw. If you have a person very equipped, Mightyena won't really want to use Swagger. And because of our poor stats, it'd rather just outright attack Machop. And Double Edge does a fair chunk of damage, but honestly, we can deal with Mightyena. Problem is, Sydney will field the Shiftry next. Everyone knows that Pokemon is hella annoying, but rather than Torment or Double Team, it's got Extra Sensory. Of course, Machop's weak to that and will consistently get knocked out. But hey, we've got Numel, right? And that's got Overheat. Should be an easy one-shot. Yeah, when it hits, because we're slower, it's not uncommon for Shiftry to use Swagger or Double Team, and Overheat's accuracy isn't guaranteed. But in a good match, you can make it through the Shiftry, and because we finished off Shiftry with a type that's weak to water, Sydney will send out the Crawdon next. Not a battle we can win with Numel, so Voltorb seems like the easiest solution. Matchup wise, yeah, it is. Problem is that Surf will cause a fair bit of damage, more than half. While Shockwave is good, it's not quite good enough to Oko Crawdon. This means we'll be getting knocked out the next turn, but another Pokemon can come out for the revenge KO if needed. Then you've got Pokemon like Absol Cacturn left. Even if we could use Machop, Absol has Aerial Ace and currently it'll always outspeed, so that's kind of a no-go. It doesn't take me long until I realize I need to level up more to make this viable, so that's what we go and do. I just constantly run back and forth between that western route of Morville until we've got our Pokemon to level 55. At this level, the battle's winnable, it's just not particularly graceful. It was at this point I decided to just start saving because our battles are only going to get tougher from here on out. I don't even want to think about Drake and Wallace right now. Against Sydney's Mightyena, we're getting tagged with Intimidate and Sand Attack. Fortunately, Low Kick hits this time, but the damage range just ain't hitting the spot. However, instead of the Person Berry, I switched to the Quick Claw with a Chop. This finally kicks in on the second turn and Sydney chooses not to heal the Mightyena so we can KO it. Next, Sydney will want to bring out Shiftry. While before we were going with Numel because it could make the range, now that we've gained a bunch of levels, it actually makes more sense to field Swablu. Despite its god-awful attack, Aerial Ace should be able to inflict just over half damage. As long as Shiftry doesn't use something like Torment, we should be fine. Shiftry instead uses Swagger and it thankfully misses. Another Aerial Ace from Swablu is able to KO it. Absol's gotta be out next, and the most successful strategy I had was using Absol's greatest advantage against it, Sword Stance. It loves setting up that move on its first turn, and we have just the counter for that in Luvdisc. Luvdisc will outspeed the Absol at its current level, so the first move we want to use is Attract. Luckily, Absol's immobilized in a turn, we then switch to Sweet Kiss. Now, if and when Absol hits itself in confusion, it does about 1/3 of its HP, pretty good. Then we can focus on simply attacking Absol with Water Pulse. Honestly, Luvdisc stats suck, but Water Pulse with Stab is actually okay. It's even better when Absol hits itself in confusion next turn, knocking it out. Now, because of Luvdisc typing, Sydney will want Tack Turn out next. This is where we can finally unleash Numel. Tack Turn likes to use Cotton Spore on its first turn, which is fine by us. We just need to get one of those overheats off and it'll do the job. We tank a Feint Attack, it's fine next turn. Then there's Overheat and it's a one-shot. There's just the Crawdon left now. We've yet to lose any of our Pokemon and it's Voltorb's time to shine. And because we've manipulated Crawdon into using Surf, when Voltorb's out and gets hit, unlike before, it'll do less than half damage. Our Shockwave will now do well over half. Crawdon will then go for Swords Dance, which could be bad. What's worse is that next turn, Sydney heals the Crawdon. However, it turns out that Shockwave was in range in the end, and we just got a bad roll, so it can OHKO Crawdon, and that's Sydney. For Phoebe, much like Sydney, you may think we have an advantage here because of Claydol, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Claydol may be bulky, but its psychic attacks are honestly pretty pathetic, especially when it's up against special defensive bulky Pokemon, but we've got no choice but to start with Claydol. I've also been using rare candies on this thing because it's probably our best Pokemon. First turn, Dusclops will go for Protect. It makes most sense for us to use Light Screen just to up our special defense. Next turn, we'll go Psychic. Dusclops often goes for a second Protect here, but it fails this time. And even though we are 10 levels above Dusclops, Psychic does just over half. That's why we had to use those rare candies. We get extremely lucky this battle because Dusclops doesn't attack and instead keeps using Protect, allowing us to get past it without taking a single hit. Phoebe will then want to bring in Banette. Not a great matchup for anyone, really. We do switch into Swablu because of its normal typing. Honestly, this was more of an exploratory battle, so I had no real idea what the best strat was here. I just kept spamming Mirror Move with Swablu. We get burned, but at least we burn Banette. I decided to swap into Numel because I guess it can use Magnitude. That doesn't quite work out though. A couple of poor Magnitude rolls combined with putting Banette into healing range means Phoebe will use that full restore and we are back to square one. Eventually, we get a couple of good rolls for Magnitude. Banette's been using Grudge though, so while we do knock it out, there is no more Magnitude. Alright, Phoebe switches into a level 51 Dusclops. Fresh out of ideas, I swap into Swablu because that Dusclops was lining up Earthquake, but Dusclops has a counter to that in Rock Slide. We can't do much apart from try to Mirror Move it a few times until Swablu uses Perry Song before piecing out. I then try to bring Claydol. The idea here was to set up a light screen so we'd be able to tank the Shadow Balls. That's obviously not going to be effective. In the end, we don't even manage to get off a move because Claydol 2 is knocked out. Honestly, by this point, I've seen enough. I just decided to reset. In the end, there was never a good strategy for Phoebe. We win eventually, but yeah. For Dusclops, the game plan hasn't changed. We still might as well set up a light screen on the first turn and then switch to Psychic. We don't get the luck we previously had though. After taking one Psychic, Dusclops then uses Curse to finish itself off. When Banette's out, we're going to take that curse damage, so we are forced to switch into Numel instead. However, we get a bit of good luck because Banette tries to use Will-O-Wisp against Numel, which isn't affected by the move. I debated whether to outright attack, but then had the thought of setting up Sunny Day instead. Now, because Banette loves using Grudge, I don't really care if it takes all the PP from Overheat. I'd rather just knock the thing out. Sure enough, next turn, when we use Overheat, Banette uses Grudge. We not only KO, but get a crit. Because of Numel's weakness to ground, I'm expecting the final Dusclops. Phoebe does not disappoint. I know that thing is going to use Earthquake to bring out Claydol to negate it. Sure enough, there's the Earthquake. We are bulky enough to tank a Shadow Ball next turn. Problem is, our Psychic ain't doing enough. If we use another one, it'll trigger Dusclops' Berry. We've got no choice but to just roll with it. Going for Earthquake next turn because why not? We get hit with Shadow Ball first and survive on just 3 HP. Of course, our attack takes it into healing range. Next turn, no doubt we are getting knocked out, but I decide to switch into another Pokemon, Luvdisc. Because the gender of the Elite Four team corresponds to them, we can't use Attract. Best we can do is get hit with Rock Slide and then use Sweet Kiss instead. But despite Luvdisc's best efforts, we take Dusclops into healing range and BB uses a full restore. Back where we started, Luvdisc is able to eke out a bit of damage to Dusclops, but we know it's not going to survive the battle. Knocked out, we're swiftly running out of options. Dusclops has a super effective move against all of our Pokemon, so might as well send out Swablu. The little bird can't do much except use Mirror Move with Rock Slide, because hopefully BB has no more potions. I'm just focusing on doing as much damage as possible with the Pokemon we have left. What does surprise me is that when Swablu's knocked out and we bring in Numel, it actually manages to outspeed with Magnitude, which ends up finishing Dusk off. BB's got 2 Pokemon left, so we might as well just stick with Numel. Sableye next, and this thing is a pain. With Numel, while we are quicker and get hit with Shadow Ball, which then lowers our special defense, we do get a Magnitude 9. Things are starting to look up. Next turn though, not so great. Sableye uses Double Team, but then our Magnitude rolls low and we nearly knock it out. And then we get the answer to the potion question. Yep, BB has another full restore. Great. We do get a free hit in next turn and it ends up being a crit. Numel's still on relatively decent health, so is able to absorb a little bit more punishment, but the next Magnitude misses. We're hit again. Then the final Magnitude, it pops off, still doesn't do enough damage. Numel's then knocked out. Alright, now it's Voltorb's time. It's definitely quicker, it has Shockwave, it shouldn't be a problem. And when Voltorb of course moves first, not. Sableye's down, just 1 Pokemon left, the final Banette. I contemplated self-destruct but managed to stop myself just in time because obviously it'll do nothing. We've still got all reliable Shockwave though. Doesn't do over half, but that may just be enough. Shadow Ball on the other hand does do over half, not great. A couple of turns later and Voltorb's gone to the Great Pokeball in the sky. We've got 2 Pokemon left. Machop can do nothing to Banette. We can only use Claydol on 3 HP. This thing has to go first, and now is the moment of truth. Claydol is out. We go for Psychic. We go first. Ridiculous. If I hadn't switched that thing out a few Pokemon ago, it would have been a lot. Crazy. But that is Phoebe. Maybe we'll have an easier time with Glacier. Well, yeah, kinda. It makes most sense to go with Machop first because of its advantage over Ice Pokemon. Celio always goes for Hail turn 1. Now, through trial and error, 1 bulk up is going to be enough. When combined with Low Kick, it'll be a one-shot on the Celio. Glacier will then field the Glalie next. This thing will outspeed us and always goes for Ice Beam. We can tank it, but it's not great. But at this level, with the bulk up, Low Kick is capable of giving us the Oko. Funny thing is, Machop still ain't faster than Celio, but this is the reality that we live in. We get extremely lucky because Celio uses Blizzard first turn and it ends up missing. That would have easily destroyed us, but it didn't, so we can use another Low Kick to one-shot this thing. BB will always save Walrein for last, so that means it's the other Glalie. This is as far as Machop goes. It ain't faster and it doesn't have enough HP. Maybe with a Shell Bell, but we don't have that equipped. Instead, we have the Quick Claw, and unless that, well then, we will take that. But now we have Walrein, and this is where Machop's story has to end. To be fair, it got through the majority of Glacier's Pokemon single-handedly, so fair play. There is no Quick Claw to save us this time. Walrein uses Surf, and that is Machop done. But hey, we have a ton of Pokemon to take us over the finish line. Okay, so now we're bringing out Voltorb. It should definitely outspeed Walrein, and it does with a Shockwave that crits. Walrein uses another Surf, and though it does a ton of damage, it should be fine because Walrein's Citrus Berry kicks in, taking it out of Glacier's healing range. That means we can use another Shockwave next turn to KO it fairly easily. A much less complicated battle than Phoebe, but we did have quite a bit of luck. But honestly, those trainers were always going to be the easier battles, right? Drake is where things really kick up at night. And you know what the crazy thing is? It wasn't. This is my first time battling Drake. Didn't know what to expect. Didn't know the best gameplay. Just went with it. We know the story. He starts with his Shelgon. That thing loves Protect first turn, so we're going to go for bulk up with Machop. All good. I was expecting double Protect, so just went for Seismic Toss, but Shelgon instead attacks. Dragon Claw doesn't do over half, which is good. Machop's only here for the Shelgon anyway. It's the very next turn when we use Low Kick, we see the other Protect. Not a problem, we'll just go for it next turn. Shelgon is faster than us, so we can take another Dragon Claw. It leaves us on 38 HP, but doesn't knock us out. Our Low Kick, however, does knock Shelgon out. Drake will then be switching into his Altaria because of the type advantage. That's fine, we are quicker than it. Machop's here just to get knocked out and call it a day. And that is exactly what happened. We take a Dragon Breath and that's the end of it. Now the plan is to swap into Claydol. Earthquake won't affect us, plus we have an effective move in Ancient Power. When Claydol's out, I do go for Light Screen first just in case. Altaria uses Dragon Dance instead. Would have preferred something else, but here we are. Okay, next turn, we'll be going for those Ancient Powers. We take a double edge and it's not too bad, but then our Ancient Power hits and we get that precious boost. Awesome. I'm then taking a break thinking for a moment. Don't know why. Break from reality maybe. Checking moves. But we eventually use Ancient Power again. I don't think we'll outspeed, but okay we do. And a critical hit. Well, this could be the start of something. Drake's sending out his Kingdra next. Makes sense. It has Surf. This is probably as far as Claydol goes, right? Well, it's quicker but uses Smokescreen first. I'm guessing because Surf wouldn't KO us or something. We've used Psychic and with that boost, it is doing some pretty awesome damage, but we soon start paying for that Smokescreen. We're trying to just use Psychic to KO Kingdra, but it just keeps missing. Kingdra finally ends up attacking us with Surf. Our light screens worn off, but we're only taken down to 92 HP. We do still outspeed and finally hit it with Psychic a turn later, defeating Kingdra. Now we're going to see Flygon next. And I take back what I said about Claydol not being that useful because its best stats are in its bulk, because it's that bulk that ends up saving us against Flygon. Instead of just going for Psychic, I went from using Light Screen because I forgot it had Crunch. Despite that, we are not taking too much pain. I even then go for Ancient Power, which is of course ineffective. Didn't get that boost. Finally, I switch to Psychic and we then start seeing some good returns. While it does put Flygon into healing range and Drake uses a full restore, it's ultimately not going to be enough because Claydol just keeps on going and knocks Flygon out. There is just one Pokemon remaining, Salamence. I'm not sure what the game plan is here aside from spam Psych. While we've leveled up, I don't know if we can tank what Salamence is going to throw at us. Good news is that we do outspeed and Psychic does a ton of damage. Then, by the power of, well, Ancient Power, we are able to tank Crunch on just 10 HP. Salamence isn't in healing range for Drake, but it is for its Berry, which takes it just above half HP. Will our next Psychic do the job? Well, no. Salamence is on a sliver of health, and we ain't surviving that Crunch. What a shame. But Claydol has put in a shift, so the rest of our team ain't exactly great. I just go for Luvdisc because at least it controls the Salamence a little bit. To be fair, Luvdisc doesn't do terribly. Salamence does get immobilized a turn or two. We go with Sweet Kiss. We use Waterfalls honestly, though we're not making a dent. We need to bring out another Pokemon, any Pokemon. I prepped Salamence with another Sweet Kiss before deciding to go for Voltorb. The plan here was to either use Shockwave or Rollout. After thinking about it for a moment, I don't think we're going to do enough damage, especially after seeing that Dragon Claw. But one move we do have is Self-Destruct, and we are faster. Turns out that's just good enough to KO the Salamence and hand us the victory against Drake. First try too. Honestly, I was pretty shocked. Without that Ancient Power boost, I'm pretty sure we would not have won. But we need the wins where we can find them. Ultimately, it's all been building up to our final battle with the champion Wallace. Wallace, as you might expect, is not an easy battle. We have a bunch of Pokemon that are vulnerable to water and ice moves. We only have a couple that could actually cause something close to damage. So what is the plan? Well, Wailord's the first hurdle. While a Pokemon like Voltorb can cause Wailord damage, Wailord can deal a lot more damage back to us. The thing is quite comfortable sweeping an entire team if it feels like it with moves like Water Spout and Double Edge. At best, a Pokemon like Voltorb can get off 2 hits, and those 2 hits won't knock Wailord out outside of a crit. But I had been saving a couple of rare candies for an occasion just like this. These are all I have left. I do not want to go back and do this again, so I take Voltorb up to level 59. Fortunately, even at 59, we are still not making ranges. We can take a little more damage, but that's really not saying much. But let's say we got past Wailord. Who would we run into next? Probably Whiscash or Tentacruel. For the former, which has Earthquake and Surf, we're at a disadvantage all round. For the latter, it's got Hydro Pump, Toxic and Ice Beam. Claydol has the best chance against the Pokemon, but they have no problem destroying us either. For Ludicolo, we're not actually in a bad position. Swablu, the little floating cloud, has Aerial Ace, and that move can output some decent damage while ignoring Ludicolo's double team. By itself, Swablu can often take down Ludicolo. With my low tick, we're at a pretty big disadvantage. It's so special defensive and bulky that even our super effective moves do barely anything. So what will happen is, you'll be chipping away at its health while it damages you, only to then use Recover and all your work's wasted. Not only that, it has Toxic and Wallace has a bunch of full restores too. Finally, depending on its order, there's Gyarados. Annoying because it has Earthquake, so while Voltorb can inflict good damage, it ain't surviving an Earthquake, so you have to be in a position where you're willing to sacrifice a Pokemon or let Voltorb get KO. So those are our problems, but at our current level, are we able to win? Let's see. A bunch of battles later, I kinda have a game plan. It starts with our level 59 Voltorb using Spark. Most times, this will edge Wailord over the halfway mark. Any move it now uses outside of a crit won't KO Voltorb, and Wailord should be out of healing range. If this happens, we can then use Spark again the next turn to finish it off. This is important because we want Whiscash out next. However, that's not what we get. It's Gyarados. Just as good though, because either Pokemon will want to use Earthquake. We'll then switch into Claydol to mitigate that move. I would have rather been using Earthquake, but Ancient Power will have to do for now. It does about a quarter to Gyarados. Gyarados will then start using Dragon Dance. I'd rather we were attacked because it is very likely it can simply sweep through the rest of our team. And Ancient Power isn't doing too much damage, meaning the next attack will not knock Gyarados out, but put it into healing range. Gyarados then unleashes a Hyper Beam. Somehow, Claydol hangs on at 23 HP. Predictably, we attack but don't KO. While Gyarados will have to recharge next turn, I'm expecting the potion, so feel like it's already a waste to attack. I do it anyway, Gyarados is recharging, then we hit with Ancient Power. Guess Wallace really is rationing those full restores. Pretty fortunate, but what's not so fortunate is that Tentacruel is up next. At 23 HP, we are not surviving anything that it throws at us, and I really doubt we're going to be quicker than it. Still, we might as well go for Earthquake. We got that Intimidate too, so I am not holding out, but we go first, and we hit with Earthquake, and it's a crit. Nice. Okay, that was lucky. I'm still thinking we're going to want to hang on to Claydol just in case, so when Wallace sends out Whiscash, while our options are limited, I think we might as well change. Problem is, for some reason, I went with Swablu. Now, I should have been saving Swablu for Ludicolo. I still have no idea what I was thinking there. As you might expect, Swablu ain't really going to do much against a Pokemon like Whiscash, though it's relatively bulky with moves like Aerial Ace and Mirror Move. I don't know what I was expecting. Of course, we're not going to last long and inevitably get KO'd. What a waste of a Pokemon. Our options are still severely limited, so for some reason I bring Claydol back in. The hope here was that somehow Earthquake may just be able to make the range and knock it out. And while we are faster than Whiscash, we do not make that range. Whiscash then uses Hyper Beam. Claydol ain't surviving that. But if Wallace chooses not to heal, we could knock Whiscash out. So I just picked Numel. It has Magnitude, it could work out, if Wallace doesn't heal that is. And with Numel out, we see that Whiscash has to recharge, so that means it's not getting that potion, which means Numel and Magnitude and knock it out. I'm guessing Wallace is just saving them all for Milotic maybe. Who knows? Who cares right now? Wallace has just 2 Pokemon left. He'll save Milotic for last, so Ludicolo's up next. No point switching out. I've come to terms with Numel's demise. It won't outspeed. I doubt it's gonna survive, though I wait for a moment and finally go with Sunny Day. Numel doesn't stand a chance. Ludicolo uses Surf and washes it away. But who have we really got who could be effective against Milotic? Without much of a choice, I go for the Hail Mary play of Machop. Ludicolo is pretty big, so maybe Low Kick could work. And even though Ludicolo is faster, you know what? Low Kick ain't half bad. It is doing about third. Machop then gets seeded, but that may work in our favor because of the healing ranges. And despite Ludicolo using Double Team, Machop is somehow making both the accuracy and the ranges until it eventually manages to knock Ludicolo out. We're just left with the Milotic. Sure, we have some Pokemon left, but that thing is so bulky, I don't think we're going to be making a dent. The last thing we want is Milotic getting any more healing, so the smartest option is to swap Machop out and bring in Luvdisc. I have a plan in mind, but with 3 Pokemon left, this ain't looking great. Luvdisc's purpose here is to just troll Milotic with Attract and Sweet Kiss. We do end up getting an absolutely clutch Toxic Miss after managing to use Attract on Milotic, which was absolutely crucial. After Luvdisc has done the job of confusing Milotic, I then want to switch into Voltorb, but as soon as Voltorb's out, Milotic hits it with Toxic. I'm just thinking about how much easier of a time this thing will have outlasting us right now. While we do manage to use Shockwave and it's okay, along with Milotic hitting itself in confusion, I know we won't cause enough damage to actually finish it off next turn. This is where we execute the plan. Milotic has great special defense. Its physical defense, not so great. And hey, if it worked on Drake's Salamence, who's to say it won't work here? So we use Self-Destruct. At just over half HP, we'll be going first, using Self-Destruct, and it manages to finish off the Milotic. And that is the game. Frustrating, kind of annoying, grindy, but never dull. It's not so much the Pokemon, even though most are pretty trash. It's being tied into those movesets, which end up being the killer. I have no desire to face off with Steven because it would require a ton more leveling and I don't have it in me. However, compared with the run in Crystal, I had to rely on the team as a whole rather than simply maining with one Pokemon, which did make things pretty interesting. Every Pokemon had a part to play and it was fun. Depending on the battle, who would end up being the MVP. But hey, maybe you could have made the run even easier. Feel free to let me know. If you have an idea for an interesting run in the same style, let me know. And if you want to like and subscribe, go for it. Until next time, have a good one.